I thought he was just a stranger buying coffee, but one night with him changed the part of my heart I thought was gone forever. I fell in love with the man who saved me. Then I opened one locked file and found out he had been watching me years before we met. The coffee shop in downtown Atlanta was almost empty at 11 p.m. Zendaya Okonkwo wiped down the same counter for the third time, not because it was dirty, but because her mind was somewhere else entirely. 34 years old, divorced, working 2 jobs just to keep her mama's medical bills from drowning her. "You gonna rub a hole through that thing?" her coworker patient said, grabbing her purse from under the register. Zendaya forced a small laugh. "Girl, I'm just tired." "Tired don't even cover what you look like right now," patient said, shaking her head. "Go home. I'll lock up." But Zendaya couldn't go home. Not yet. Home meant facing the stack of envelopes she'd been avoiding. Home meant remembering that Terrence, her ex-husband, had cleaned out their savings before disappearing with his secretary 3 years ago. The bell above the door chimed. Zendaya looked up, ready to say they were closing, but the words got stuck somewhere in her throat. The man who walked in was Korean, probably in his early 40s, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her car. His hair was pushed back, showing a face that looked like it had seen things. Hard things. His eyes scanned the room like he was calculating something, measuring exits maybe, or threats. Behind him stood 2 younger men in similar dark suits. They stayed by the door. We're about to close," Zendaya managed. The man's eyes settled on her. Something flickered there. Not danger exactly. More like recognition? But that didn't make sense. She'd never seen this man in her life. "Just coffee," he said. His accent was slight, his voice low. "Please." That please caught her off guard. Men who looked like him, men with bodyguards and expensive watches, they didn't usually say please to women like her. "Black or?" "Black. 2 sugars." She nodded, turning to the machine. Her hands were shaking slightly and she didn't know why. "Now before we continue, I want you to hit that subscribe button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I really want to know." When she turned back with his coffee, he was sitting at the corner booth, his guards still standing like statues by the entrance. She walked over, set down the cup. "Thank you," he said. But he wasn't looking at the coffee. He was looking at the small cross pendant around her neck. "That's beautiful." "My grandmother's," Zendaya said, touching it automatically. "She gave it to me before she passed." He nodded slowly, like that meant something to him. "Sit with me." "Excuse me?" "I said sit. Please." There was that word again. "I just need someone to talk to tonight. Nothing else. I'll pay you for your time." Zendaya should have said no. Everything in her told her this was strange, maybe even dangerous. But something in his eyes, maybe it was loneliness, maybe it was pain, looked exactly like what she saw in her own mirror every morning. She sat. "My name is Kwon Tae-hyun," he said. "Zendaya. Zendaya Okonkwo." "Zendaya," he repeated, like he was tasting the name. "That's beautiful. Nigerian origin. My father was Nigerian." He picked it. She paused. "What brings you to Atlanta, Mr. Kwon?" He was quiet for a moment, stirring his coffee even though the sugar was already dissolved. "Business. My family has interests here." "What kind of business?" A small smile crossed his face. "Not warm exactly, but not cold either. The kind that keeps me up at night." Zendaya didn't push. She knew that tone. It was the same tone she used when people asked about Terrence. "You seem tired too," Tae-hyun said, studying her face. "Not just physically. Something else." "That's a pretty personal observation from someone I just met." "I apologize. I've been told I'm too direct." He hesitated, then added, "But I'm rarely wrong." She wanted to be offended, but she couldn't find the energy. "Yeah, well, life does that, doesn't it? Tires you out." "It does." He took a sip of coffee. "This is good. It's just regular coffee. Sometimes regular is exactly what you need." They sat in silence for a moment. It should have been awkward, but somehow it wasn't. The 2 guards exchanged glances but said nothing. "I have a proposition," Tae-hyun said finally. Zendaya's guard went up immediately. I'm not that kind of. No, no. He held up a hand quickly. Nothing like that. I would never. No. He actually looked embarrassed, which surprised her. I have an event tomorrow. A charity gala. I need someone to accompany me. Someone who isn't connected to my world. Someone real. Real. Everyone in my life wants something from me. Money. Power. Connections. He set down his cup. You looked at me like I was just a man ordering coffee. Do you know how long it's been since someone looked at me that way? Zendaya didn't know what to say. Part of her thought this was crazy. The other part, the part that remembered what it felt like to be seen as more than a struggling waitress with too many problems, that part was listening. I'll pay you $5,000 for one night, he said. Just to attend the gala with me. Nothing more. You'll be home by midnight. $5,000. That was half her mama's outstanding hospital bill. Why me? She asked. You could have anyone. Taehyun looked at her pendant again, then back at her face. Because when you poured my coffee, your hands were shaking, but you smiled anyway. That takes strength. I need someone strong beside me tomorrow. Zendaya thought about the bills, about her mama, about how long it had been since she'd worn a nice dress or felt like more than just a survivor. One night, she said. Nothing more. Nothing more, he agreed. But somehow, looking into his dark eyes, Zendaya had a feeling that neither of them believed that. The dress arrived at her apartment the next afternoon. Zendaya stared at the garment bag like it might bite her. The delivery man had needed her signature 3 times. Like whatever was inside was made of diamonds. Open it already. Her best friend Kayamika was practically bouncing on the couch. Zendaya had called her immediately, needing someone to tell her she wasn't completely crazy. She unzipped the bag slowly. Oh, my goodness. Kayamika's jaw dropped. The dress was emerald green, floor-length, elegant without being flashy. Simple, classy, exactly her style, even though she'd never told Taehyun what her style was. Girl, who is this man? Kayamika demanded. I told you, just some businessman. Businessmen don't send dresses that cost more than my rent. This is designer, Zendaya. Like, actual designer. There was a note tucked into the bag. Zendaya pulled it out. The color reminded me of your grandmother's cross. I hope it's appropriate. Car will arrive at 7. Her hand went to her pendant automatically. The stone in the center was a small emerald. Her grandmother had called it her hope stone. He noticed your necklace, Kayamika said, reading over her shoulder. After one conversation in a coffee shop. Zendaya. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything. Men don't notice jewelry unless they're paying attention. Like, really paying attention? Zendaya wanted to argue, but she couldn't, because Kayamika was right. Terrence had been married to her for 6 years and couldn't remember if she wore gold or silver. The gala was at the Ritz-Carlton in Buckhead. Zendaya had never been inside before, only driven past it and wondered what it was like to be the kind of person who belonged there. Tonight, apparently, she was going to find out. Taehyun was waiting in the lobby when she arrived. He turned as she walked in, and something shifted in his face. Not surprise exactly. More like confirmation. Like she was exactly what he'd expected, but also somehow more. You're beautiful, he said simply. The dress is beautiful, she corrected. I'm just wearing it. No, he shook his head. I've seen that dress on models in Seoul. It didn't look like this. Zendaya felt heat rise to her cheeks. She wasn't used to compliments. Not anymore. Should we go in? She asked, trying to steady herself. He offered his arm. Old-fashioned. Formal. But somehow, from him, it felt natural. The ballroom was filled with people who probably owned small countries. Zendaya recognized a few faces from magazines and news programs. Everyone was dressed like they'd walked out of a movie, and every single one of them looked at Taehyun with a mixture of respect and fear. They're all staring, she whispered. They're staring at you, he corrected. They've seen me plenty of times. But you're new. And they're wondering. Wondering what? who captured the attention of Kwon Tae-hyun. Okay, I need y'all to drop a comment right now. Tell me where you are watching from and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. The evening was strange and magical and terrifying all at once. Tae-hyun introduced her to people whose names she forgot immediately, but he never left her side. When she stumbled over small talk, he smoothly redirected conversations. When a woman in red made a snide comment about Zendaya's interesting background, Taehyun's response was cold enough to freeze the champagne. Mrs. Worthington donates to charities so people will forget her husband's scandal last year, he said loudly enough for the woman to hear. Your grandmother probably donated because she believed in helping people. Which do you think matters more? Zendaya didn't know what to say. No one had defended her like that since her father died. You didn't have to do that, she said when they'd moved away. Yes, I did. His voice was firm. No one speaks to you that way. Not while you're with me. I'm only with you for one night, remember? Something flickered in his eyes. Pain, maybe, or regret. I remember. They ended up on the balcony, away from the noise and the judgmental eyes. The Atlanta skyline sparkled below them, all lights and possibility. Can I ask you something? Zendaya said. Anything. Why do they all seem scared of you? Those people in there? Taehyun was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, heavier. My family is not conventional. We have power in Korea, the kind of power that makes people nervous. I inherited responsibilities I didn't ask for, enemies I didn't make. He paused. I've spent my whole life trying to be something other than what they made me, but everywhere I go, that shadow follows. Is that why you're here? In Atlanta? Running from that shadow? Maybe. He turned to look at her. Or maybe I'm looking for a light bright enough to make it disappear. The moment stretched between them. Zendaya knew she should look away, should remember that this was just a business arrangement, just one night for money she desperately needed. But looking at Taehyun, seeing the loneliness that matched her own, she realized something terrifying. She didn't want this night to end. We should go back in, she said, but she didn't move. We should, he agreed, but he didn't move either. His phone buzzed, shattering the moment. He glanced at it, and his entire demeanor changed. The softness disappeared, replaced by something hard and cold. I have to take this. His voice was clipped now. Professional. Please wait here. He stepped away, speaking rapid Korean into the phone. Zendaya caught a few words she recognized from K-dramas she secretly watched. None of them sounded good. When he returned, the man from the coffee shop, the man who noticed her grandmother's pendant and sent her a perfect dress, was gone. In his place stood someone else entirely. I'm afraid we need to leave, he said. Immediately. The ride back to her apartment was silent. Not comfortable silence like before. This was different. Heavy. Wrong. Taehyun stared out the window the entire time, his jaw tight, his hands clenched on his knees. The two guards from the coffee shop sat in the front, exchanging worried glances in the rearview mirror. When they pulled up to her building, Zendaya waited for him to say something. Anything. Thank you for tonight, he said finally. His voice was distant. The payment will be in your account by morning. That's it? After everything? Taehyun. Good night, Zendaya. He didn't look at her. Not once. She got out of the car, her beautiful dress suddenly feeling like a costume she had no right to wear. The car pulled away before she'd even reached her door. 3 weeks passed. The money appeared in her account, just like he'd promised. $5,000 exact. Zendaya paid off half her mother's bills and tried to forget about emerald dresses and lonely eyes. She couldn't. You're doing it again, Patience said at the coffee shop, staring at the door like you're waiting for someone. I'm not waiting for anyone. Ma'am. Patience didn't look convinced. That Korean businessman never came back, huh? Why would he? It was just one night. But even as she said it, Zendaya knew that wasn't true. One night didn't explain why she'd saved his note in her jewelry box. One night didn't explain why she'd looked him up online and found articles about Kwon Industries, about billions of dollars and mysterious business dealings, about a family with connections to things that never quite got explained in public. One night didn't explain why she missed him. She was locking up alone one evening when she found it. A small envelope tucked under the welcome mat, her name written in careful handwriting she somehow recognized. I shouldn't contact you. It's safer if I don't. But I can't stop thinking about the light on the balcony. No return address. No way to respond. But he was thinking about her. A week later, flowers arrived at her mother's hospital room. White roses, her mother's favorite, though Zendaya had never told anyone that. These are beautiful, baby, her mama said, touching the petals with thin fingers. Who sent them? I don't know, mama. But she did know. She absolutely did. The gifts continued. Small things always meaningful. A first edition of her father's favorite book that she'd mentioned once. A cashmere scarf in the exact shade of blue her grandmother used to wear. Each one came with a short note, never explaining, just existing. I saw this and thought of what you said about Sundays. Your father had excellent taste in literature. Blue seems like your color. Or maybe I just want it to be. And then suddenly the gift stopped. 2 months of silence. Zendaya told herself it was better this way. Told herself she was being ridiculous, building fantasies around a man she'd spent exactly one evening with. A man with shadows and secrets and a world she couldn't begin to understand. She was almost convinced. Then she saw the news. Quan Industries CEO survives assassination attempt in Los Angeles. The headline hit her like a punch to the stomach. The article was vague, talking about business rivals, about attempted takeovers, about Taehyun being hospitalized in critical condition. Critical condition. Zendaya's hands were shaking so badly she dropped her phone twice. Baby, what's wrong? Her mama asked. She was doing better now, stronger, home from the hospital. The bills that had seemed impossible were slowly becoming manageable. Nothing, mama. I need some air. She walked for hours that night. Through her neighborhood, past the coffee shop, into parts of Atlanta she'd never explored. Walking and thinking and trying to understand how someone she barely knew had become someone she couldn't stop worrying about. Her phone buzzed at midnight. Unknown number. I'm okay. I'm sorry if you were worried. She should have been angry. Should have demanded explanations. Should have reminded him that she wasn't part of his world and didn't want to be. Instead, she typed, I was worried. I am worried. What happened? The response took several minutes. Not safe to explain. But I'm leaving the country tomorrow. For good this time. Zendaya stared at the words. Leaving. For good. Can I see you? She typed. Before you go? The wait for his answer was the longest 3 minutes of her life. Peachtree Street. The park bench where the old man feeds pigeons every morning. Tomorrow at dawn. Come alone. She didn't sleep that night. Y'all, this story is getting good, right? Make sure you're subscribed because you don't want to miss what happens next. Drop a heart in the comments if you're feeling this. The park was empty when she arrived. The sky was just starting to lighten, pink and gold pushing against the darkness. Zendaya sat on the bench he described, pulling her jacket tighter against the morning chill. She heard him before she saw him. Footsteps, slower than they should have been. When he emerged from the shadows, she had to stop herself from crying out. He looked terrible, pale, thinner than before. His left arm was in a sling, and there were fading bruises along his jaw. But he was alive. You came, he said, like he hadn't quite believed she would. You invited me. I shouldn't have. He sat down beside her, wincing slightly. I shouldn't be here at all. If they knew I was seeing you. Who's they? What's going on? And don't tell me it's not safe to explain, because I deserve better than that. Taehyun was quiet for a long moment. Then, slowly, he started to talk. About his family. About the empire they'd built on things he couldn't live with anymore. About his attempts to transform the business into something legitimate, and the people who would rather see him dead than allow that to happen. My own brother ordered the hit, he said, his voice flat. My brother. Because I wanted to go clean. Because I wanted to be someone different. Zendaya didn't know what to say, so she did the only thing that felt right. She took his hand. He looked down at their intertwined fingers like he'd never seen anything so surprising in his life. "You should run," he said softly. "Far away from me." "Probably," she agreed. "But I'm not going to." A year later, Zendaya still couldn't quite believe her life. The coffee shop was a distant memory now. So were the medical bills, the tiny apartment, the endless struggle just to survive. But not because Taehyun had given her money or fancy things. Because he'd given her something better. Partner. A friend. Someone who fought beside her instead of against her. The transformation of Kwon Industries had been brutal. Taehyun's brother, Sung-ho, hadn't given up easily. There were legal battles, corporate warfare, months of uncertainty. But Taehyun had something Sung-ho didn't have. He had people who believed in him, including Zendaya. "You don't have to come to this meeting," Taehyun said, straightening his tie in the mirror of their Savannah townhouse. They'd moved there 6 months ago, away from the memories of Atlanta, toward something new. "It could be tense." "That's exactly why I'm coming." Zendaya handed him his coffee, the same way she made it that first night. Black, 2 sugars. "You think I'm going to let you face your brother alone? After everything? He's going to try to intimidate you. He's going to fail." Taehyun smiled then, really smiled, the way he only did when it was just the two of them. "Have I mentioned that you're terrifying?" "Not today. You're slacking." The meeting was at a restaurant downtown. Neutral territory, their lawyers had insisted. Sung-ho was already there when they arrived, looking expensive and angry. "You brought her," Sung-ho said, not bothering with a greeting. "How sweet." "She goes where I go," Taehyun replied calmly. "You have the papers? You're really going to do this?" "Sign over everything our family built." "Our family built a house on sand." "Sung-ho, I'm building something that lasts." The documents would officially split Kwon Industries. Taehyun would take the legitimate operations, the real estate, the technology divisions. Sung-ho would get everything else, with the understanding that he stayed far away from anything connected to Taehyun. Forever. "You're weak," Sung-ho spat. "Father would be ashamed." "Father was ashamed," Taehyun said quietly, "of what we became, of what he became." "I found his journals," Sung-ho. "He spent his last years trying to figure out how to make things right." "I'm finishing what he started." Sung-ho's face went pale with rage. For a moment, Zendaya thought he might flip the table, might cause a scene, might do something stupid. Instead, he grabbed the pen and signed. "You'll regret this," he said as he stood to leave. "Both of you." "Maybe," Taehyun replied, "but probably not." When Sung-ho was gone, Zendaya finally let out the breath she'd been holding. "It's done," she said. "It's really done." "Almost." Taehyun reached into his pocket. "There's one more thing." The ring was simple, a gold band with a small emerald in the center. The same color as her grandmother's pendant. The same color as the dress from that first magical night. "I know this is fast," he said, and for the first time since she'd known him, his voice was uncertain. "And I know I come with complications. But Zendaya, you saved me. Not from my brother. Not from my family's legacy. You saved me from becoming someone I would have hated." Zendaya looked at the ring, then at the man holding it. "Yes," she said before he could finish. "My answer is yes." The smile that broke across his face was worth every difficult moment. The wedding was small. Savannah Courthouse, just them and a few close friends. Kayamika cried through the whole ceremony. Zendaya's mama sat in the front row, healthy and strong, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Later, at the reception in a restaurant overlooking the river, Taehyun asked Zendaya to dance. "I still can't believe this is my life," she admitted as they swayed to old Motown songs. "Then I'll spend every day reminding you it's real." He pulled her closer. Every single day. Through the window, Zendaya could see the Savannah riverfront. Couples walking hand in hand, families eating dinner, ordinary people living ordinary lives. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. 3 months after the wedding, Zendaya was cleaning out a closet in their townhouse when she found it. A locked box hidden behind winter coats. She shouldn't have opened it. She knew that. But something told her she needed to see what was inside. Documents, photographs, a file with her name on it. Her hands trembling, Zendaya opened the file, and her entire world shattered. Inside were photographs of her. Not from this year. Not from the coffee shop. These were old photographs. Her at her college graduation. Her wedding to Terrence. Her father's funeral. And notes. Detailed notes. About her schedule. Her habits. Her grandmother's pendant. At the bottom of the file, dated 3 years before they met, was a single sentence in Taehyun's handwriting. She's perfect. Begin phase 1. Zendaya's hands were shaking so badly she almost dropped everything. This wasn't chance. This wasn't fate. He had planned this. Every moment. Every gift. Every perfectly timed word. But why? She dug deeper into the box and found another file. This one with her father's name on it. Professor Adewale Okonkwo. And stamped across the front, in red letters that made her blood run cold. Debt collected, daughter to be acquired. The front door opened downstairs. Zendaya? Taehyun's voice called out, warm and loving. I brought dinner. Your favorite. She looked at the files in her hands. At the photographs. At the evidence of a lie that had lasted years. At the ring on her finger. The man she loved, the man she'd married, had been hunting her before she even knew he existed. And she had no idea why. Zendaya? Where are you? His footsteps were coming up the stairs. She had exactly 3 seconds to decide. Run, or stay and find out the truth. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment telling me what you think is really going on. Is Taehyun a villain? Was their love ever real? What did her father owe? Let me know where you're watching from, and I'll see you in the next video.